Hey everyone, let's continue from the first part, and we're going to continue with some more customization for the environment, and then we'll make some pages for the front end. We'll set up our backend and create database and also start our Git repo. Cool. So since the last time I've actually created some assets. So first what we want to do is to create a new folder called assets. And what I've done is that I've created a logo. So let's just paste this in here. Here's our logo, it's FairMobileGames. Then I also want to use a custom font. So for that, I just went to Google Web Fonts and I downloaded this Noto Sans font. Then we'll also need a CSS folder, which should actually go inside the assets. Cool. So let's leave it like this for now. In terms of the default layout, what I want to do is that I want to change it a little bit. So let's just give all these things some colors, just so we can visualize what's going on. Okay, let's get rid of this ESLint issue. Cool. So what I want to have is we're going to have a flex column layout. So we want to have a top navigation, which is going to be sticky. Then we're going to expand this content, so it should take the remaining space. And then we're going to have the footer, which is going to be at the bottom here. So in order for our content to let's actually give this one a different color. So what can we say? Indigo 300. Basically this is purple, but you cannot see it because these elements are on top of it, right? So what we want to do is we want the whole layout to always take at least the height of the screen. So we're gonna say minimum H screen. Okay. Next, let's make our middle section so the content expands. In order to do that, we need to tell it to grow. We want to have all our items to be centered. In order to do that, we're going to say items center. And now, of course, they're not taking the whole width. So in order to do that, we have to add the width full class to all of them. So we can see they're taking the full width. Cool, that looks fine. So now I know that I want this middle content section to have a maximum width of 1280 pixels. So in order to do that, let's go to Tailwind. And in here, we want to add a custom maximum width. So in order to do that, we say max width in here. We give it a name, which in our case is going to be content max width. And I want it to be 1280 pixels. Cool. So now what remains is to add it in here. So we're going to say max width is going to be max content. Okay. Let's see if this works. It doesn't work in this case because we probably just need to restart. Let's take a look at this content section. You can see that it stops when it goes further than 1280 pixels, and it's also centered. But when it goes to smaller widths, of course, it takes the full width. Before we go any further, I want to actually start using this custom font. In order to do that, we need to create a main CSS file in here. And I already have the font faces definitions in here. I just don't want to type them again. Basically what we're saying, we have this font face called Notop. And what it does, it takes this font, it tells us that, it tells the engine that this file is for this font weight, this bold one is for 700 and black is for 900. And then we have a separate class which actually says that use this font family when you're using this class. So what I want to do now is we want to go in here and just add that class to our parent, and let's fix this. Cool. Now we have this main CSS, but it's not getting loaded anywhere. So in order for us to load that, we actually need to go to Nuxt config. And in here, we are going to say CSS. And this is going to be an array. Cool. I'm going to say /assets /css /main.css. Not sure if this is gonna work, or we need to probably restart. Okay, that seems to have worked. Just to make sure, I actually installed an extension here, which would actually tell me which font is being used. Okay, that looks good. Let's start making components. Instead of having everything in here, I want to have them inside a components folder. So let's say components. And this one, the first one, is going to be called top nav.view. So let's say we need a template in here. We want to have a div. Okay. Let's just copy this, and in here, because Nuxt has this auto discovery, auto component discovery, we can actually just say top nav in here. And you can already see it changed. Cool. Since we already have the layout actually defined, I want to take off all these images, all these background colors. Cool. Maybe we can just say for the parent we want this to be white, just in case there's some kind of like system or browser background color. In that case, it might actually, because if you don't give it in here, sometimes it might be interpreted as transparent, and then you'll just have like a really weird background where you don't have any kind of elements. Cool. Let's see what we should be doing next. So let's take this background from here. So what we want to have for the top navigation is that on the left side, we want to have our logo, then the site title. And in here, we want to have an icon for the user. So let's see. First of all, we want this to be a flex. Of course, we want this to be full width. Then we want our, let's add some padding. Cool. So for now, let's leave it as is. Let's add some. Why is this not showing me the right tag? Cool. So we're gonna have two main elements, right? Two sections. We're going to have the left one and the right one, and we want them to be between each other. So we're gonna have left here. I'm gonna have div right over here. Now they're right next to each other, but we want them to be justified between. So the left one is here, right one is over there. First one I would like to have, so let's make this section also flex. And here we're gonna have the first one is going to be the image. And then we're going to have the title. So let's say here image. Let's just close it. So we want to have a source, which is going to be assets, images, logo.png. Okay. We want to actually give it a height, say 6, maybe 8. Yeah, that looks better. Let's give it also an alternate title. So we're gonna say FairMobileGames logo. Okay, looks good. And this one might actually be just, let's say, the domain for now, FairMobile.games. Okay, so they're not really aligned, so we want them to be aligned. So let's say here items center. Then we actually want, so now everything inside this section is aligned, but we want these two sections, so this one and this one, to also be aligned between them. So we're gonna say items center in here too. So now this section is aligned with this one, and also these ones are aligned between them. Cool, let's fix these. Let's give some style to our titles. So I'd say some padding, make it bold. Let's give it maybe a different color. Just a little bit more padding. I want to have like a bigger top navigation, and maybe, yeah, let's leave it like this for now. Cool. Now for the right part, what I want to have is that I want to have the icon for the user. So in order to do that, we actually want to use the FontAwesome package. But although we do have it installed, we are not actually using it anywhere. We're not actually importing it into the project. So in order to do that, we are going to use the plugins folder. So we're going to create this folder, and Nuxt is aware of this plugins folder. It knows what to do with it. So we just need to give it a name. It's going to be a TypeScript. Okay, so this is where we're gonna, actually we can take this bit from the documentation. So let's import these things, and then we're gonna have we're gonna register it as a Nuxt plugin. And in order to add any icons that our website is going to use, we just need to say library add. And the one we want to use is called FA circle user, this one. Okay. So this all looks fine. And because Nuxt actually is aware of this folder, we don't really need to do anything else. Okay, let's go to the FontAwesome website really fast. So this is the one that we're using, circle user. We want the free package, so circle user, which one is it? Regular. So in here we are importing it from solid icons. So let's go back. We want this one, I guess. Yep, so S stands for solid, and this one actually gives us the way to actually import the icon in here. So I'll just go in here, add this, let's save it. I think we need to restart. Okay, we can see it in here now. You can actually manipulate the size of this using like the FontAwesome way, but you can also manipulate the size of the icon by using the text size. So we can say XL or 2XL in here, maybe in 4. Yeah, I think this one looks fine. Now let's add some more pages. So I know that you want to have the main page, which is going to be main. Okay, now I want to have, I'll probably have multiple pages that are going to be related to the app. So that's why we're going to make it into a folder. Say index view, and then I also want to have multiple pages that are going to relate to the user. So in here I want to have dashboard, that view, and we also want to have login, that view. Okay, so let's add some default content in here. We're going to say app index. Save this. In here we're gonna say user dashboard. Okay, and in here we're going to say user login. Cool. So let's see if this actually works. If we're gonna say app. Okay. If you have folders, basically the index page is going to be the one that's going to be opened by default. If you go to that folder address in here, that same thing is going to, so for example in the user we don't have an index. I'm not sure if it's gonna work. Yep, so it cannot find it, right, because you don't have an index in here. But now if I go to login, I can see user login, and I can also see user dashboard. Okay, cool. So we have some pages to work with right now. Let me just remove this from here. I think I would actually prefer to call this page index, because I want this to be the default page, and then the other functionality like login is going to be something separate. Next, let's make this section, let's make it into a link to the index page. So we're gonna transform this one. Actually, let's put it on top. So we're gonna have a Nuxt link. Let it auto close. We're gonna need a 2 here, and we're gonna say it go to the root. Let's just copy, cut and paste that in there. And then we want this bit to also be a link. So let's say Nuxt link. Okay, we want this to go to /user. And let's just paste this in here. Let's format everything. Cool. So main and user, have user index PHP. Why is this not working? Let's see if we need to restart maybe. Yep, so you can see that the pages are changing, but I also want to have a animation between these changes. So in order to add some animation between page changes, we have to go first to Nuxt config, and we're gonna have this new parameter app, and in here you can say page transition. You have to give it some values, so we're gonna say name page, which will have to match the name of our animation classes. And then the mode, I prefer using out in. Okay, cool. Although we do have this in here, this is not everything. So now we also need to add the actual animations between the pages. So in order to do that, we need to add them in the main CSS file. I'm not going to write them, but you can actually find them in the Nuxt free documentation, but I already have some animations that I like and use in most of my projects. So now if we change it, you can see that it kind of like blurs out and then shows the other page. Cool, that looks good. Let's close stuff that we don't use. Now, I also have a thing that I like using, which is if you're using VS Code, you can actually create a new folder called .vs code. And in here you can have a file which is called settings.json. And in here I like giving my project a title, which is going to change the title here, the title of the window. So in order to do that, you say window title, and this is our client, and it's called FMG. Right, so if we save this now, you can see it actually changes, and it also changes whenever you right click on your VS Code icon at the bottom. Now, another thing I like to use is, so I have this extension called Peacock, so I can enter a color in here. Let me see, where's the color for this? So the color, this is the color taken from the actual logo in here. So let's see. So now if you go to VS Code and actually see that it populated this for you. So now you're gonna have these settings for the window for this project only. Actually, on that note, I would also like to add this color to my tailwind. So in order to do that, let's add it in here. We're gonna say colors, and this is going to be the primary color for our project. So let's just call it primary, and we're gonna give it this value. Which I'm pretty sure it's not gonna work, so let's just restart. And if we go to top navigation, let's just see if this works. So if I say text primary, yep, you can see that it changed. There's an error here, but because this is the last one, like, it takes the primary color. Okay. let's tackle just one more thing, and I think we'll leave the API and everything else for the next part in the next video. So what I want to do now is I wanted to create another component called footer. So let's create the footer here. We want to have a div. I want to copy the copyright symbol and just say FairMobileGames. I'm going to call it in here. Okay, we have it in here. I think you can actually say, what was it, copy? Yep, seems to work. Cool, so we have this FairMobileGames. It's not taking the full width, so let's add the full width in here. I think let's make it a flex for now. Let's give it a background of primary. Maybe give it text of white. Maybe uppercase, bold. Let's give it some padding. Looks kind of big, so maybe small. Yeah, that should work for now. Another thing I want to add is I want to add a script in here. So it's going to be a setup script with TypeScript. And I want to import, if you remember, we had a package called date functions. So I want to import the format from there, from date-fns. Okay, cool. So this is just going to help us format the current year easier. So we're going to say format. In here we're going to say new date and then give it the format. Cool. So let's close this. Let's format it. Where did this come from? Okay, so 2023 FairMobileGames. Okay, looks good for now. I also want to make some changes to our top navigation. So I want this whole bar to have a shadow. So I want to see shadow Excel maybe. Yep, looks pretty good. I think if we're going to add some content in here, let's try this, see if our scroll also works fine. So we're gonna say this. Okay, that's enough to add a scroll, and it seems to work exactly as we wanted. So we have the footer always appears at the bottom. This content is scrollable. Now the only thing I want is to also have this top navigation sticky. In order to do that, we need to add sticky in here, but by its own it's not going to actually work because you need to also give it a top position. So we're gonna say top 0. Let's see if that works. Okay, this seems to work fine. The only problem is that I think the Z index is needs a different value in here. So let's see, we want this to be on top of everything else. Set 20. Doesn't seem to work. Top navigation, so default top navigation. Oh, maybe we don't actually have a color in here. So let's actually remove this, say background white. Yep. Yep, so everything looks fine right now. Let's let this. Okay, let's go remove all the needless content in here. Just say main. And I think we'll leave it at that for now. I'll see you in the next video.